I've been a reporter, as you've heard, TV, radio, all my career since arriving here in 1969, and this is probably the most challenging story I have yet to share. I want to thank the Hawaii Community Caregiver Network for all of your hard work and love and support, and thank you for joining us this morning. To Roberta Wong Murray for dragging my okole over here from Oahu to help me find my balance. Who, what, when, where, why? Always my professional storytelling guidelines. No opinion. Unlike today's reporters, no eye rolling, no opinion, no giggling, no high-pitched tones, no, reaction. Who, what, when, where, why. Always professional storytelling guideline. No opinion, just the facts. KGMB's Bob Seavey. Do you all remember Bob Seavey? He was my mentor, and he kept me on that track. In the 70s and 80s, we were a big #1 here in Hawaii. And Seavey knew that my professional life was successful, my personal life was often dangerous. And he would take pictures of me when I would come to work in the morning, the bruises, lock them in a door, and if I didn't come back the next day, he'd have proof, and he knew. But did you ever know? No. We didn't tell those stories. We didn't make our personal life a professional issue. And it was personal, very personal. He learned that the CBS affiliate in Portland, my old hometown, had never had a female reporter and was looking for one. And he knew the story of how I had gone door to door looking for work right after graduation from the University of Oregon, broadcast journalism scholarship, whole 9 yards, and aloha. I didn't say that then. Hi, I'm looking for work. And they said, come back when you've had more experience and a sex change operation. I swear to God, that's what the guy said at CBS. And my grandmother was so pissed, she put me on a plane to Hawaii as a graduation gift, and I never left. I got a job as that newsroom secretary, willing to sweep the film off the floor and answer the phone and do stuff at night when nobody else could go and stand by the cameraman so that the cameraman could get pictures at the airport. Do those kinds of things. I loved it. I knew that it was going to be my career. And I was so very fortunate to have CV as my mentor, and all the people at KGMB were wonderful. Well, I'm going to get teary. He knew that the same TV station that told me to come back when I had more experience and a penis, he knew that that station was looking for its first female anchor. And since I was raised in Oregon, thought that this would be the time. I had had all that experience since 1969 on the air, and it was time. So he said, okay, I'll give you 2 years, and you've got your chair when you come back to Honolulu, but make it, have fun, and make a difference. So I'm walking through the parking lot at KOIN in Portland, and there's this man leaning against the wall in a very nice jacket and smoking a pipe. And he looks at me and he goes, "Are you the woman from Hawaii?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "I just want you to know that all the women upstairs in the newsroom hate your guts. They want the job that you are coming here to take." And he said, "Your co-anchor is a nice guy. He makes about $55,000 a year, so don't let him screw you." He's going on and on telling me all this stuff, and I said, "Why are you telling me all this?" And he said, "Well, you're taking my job." And that was Kirk. That's how that's how I met my future love, Kirk Matthews. He was doing the morning news, the noon news, the evening news, the 10 o'clock when he had to. He was just working his okole off, and he was very happy I was there. And that's how we came to know each other. And he had 2 children and was a shaky, awful marriage and about ready to end. And I stayed out of it. Nobody ever, dug and paid attention. I stayed home. I was a good girl. But I fell in love so strongly. One day in the kitchen, he got on his knee and asked me to marry him. And it was about the 2-year period that I was heading back to Hawaii. And I said, "You've got to come home with me." And he said, "Okay, all right." He had to stay at the KOIN for a couple more months before we hooked up and got back here. He'd kept going to see Bob Seavey. Knock on the door. "Hi, any work for me?" And he'd go, "You still here?" Didn't trust any guy that I would be associated with. And that included Don Ho. But anyway, Kirk had a hell of a time at the beginning getting work. Eventually he did perfectly, wonderful, worked great. CV was very proud of him. In 1984, he walked me down the aisle, and Kirk and I got married in a double wedding with my sister and her husband. So it was always very close, family knit. CV had his own caregiving challenges with his wife Rosalie, and I learned a lot watching. I learned as she declined with Alzheimer's, and the idea of privacy just stuck with me. You didn't have to run around making announcements about it. Your home life was private, and you do what you can do behind the door, but you don't go bragging and talking. And CV was that way. I learned that. Nobody has to know. It wasn't a news story that he was going through this trauma. It was a family experience, and friends were everything. Kirk and I went to visit them in Washington before CV passed away, and there was Rosalie sitting at the table, still unaware that we were there. It was difficult, but I learned a lot, and I learned what patience meant. One amazing experience I also learned about CV was that he came back to Hawaii before passing to visit with friends. Huge difference in the way he could live out his final life. Lots of hugs, nothing from far away, close up. And might have taken a toll on his life, but it was worth it. I'll have more on that later. Kirk's obvious cancer challenges started with the loss of his hair. Now, you don't know this, but for more than a year and a half, he had a wig, wore a wig on the air, anchoring. And I didn't know. And I'm married to the guy, Hillerman the guy on Hawaii Five-0, he told Kirk where to get a wig, and Kirk got on a plane and flew to California and got fitted, and nobody knew. It was wonderful. He wore that wig for more than a year and a half on the air. I was working at KSSK in 1998. I left and volunteered with Rotary, and Kirk worked and worked, and in 2011, he experienced salivary gland removal. Future cancer oogies here and there kept cropping up. And it was difficult, but I didn't have to work. And I had time with him when he would take days off and be at home in pain. And he finally retired in 2014, of all things. It was his choice. And right after he retired, my ulcer ruptured. And down I went and was in the hospital for a few days. And I mean, it's just bizarre. The changes physically, be ready. I had no clue that I was in trouble physically because of my mental situation. And my tummy blew up. And Kirk took care of me in the midst of that. So you just, you gotta be ready. Balance. I was always off balance. I had an amazing ohana that would care for me. And it's not just family, it's Rotary. It's an organization of people, like-minded individuals who care and who take time to ask, how are you doing? And let's do this over the weekend, and we need your help cleaning this, and we're building a park in Waikiki, and we're reading to students on the weekend, and come on. And it kept me going, and it would get me out of the house for positive reasons. I call Kirk first dude, and his health continued to decline. And there were some chemo treatments that were planned, and that was creepy, going there. But I got to go. I took him in a cab or on a bus to Straub, and we would spend the whole afternoon there, and I would watch as stuff came out of his arm and into a big thing, and, weak, and yet always with a smile on his face. And I was thankful I was there. We would read, we'd watch TV, I'd go get plate lunches, we would make every chemo visit an event happening. It wasn't just, oh shit, we gotta go sit there and drip and poke. It was fun. We laughed. And one thing that people were concerned about was that we were taking a bus, because that's not healthy if you've got issues. And so there's a guy in my Rotary Club named Al Linton. And he said, I got an old Jeep in the parking lot. He puts glass on buildings. And he said, if you want to use that, you can. 2000 Jeep. And so I said, sure, I'll borrow it. And we had the transportation back and forth. It was great relief. Friends come forward when you least expect it. After Kirk passed, he knew I was still driving the Jeep. He came up to me after Rotary and he said, Linda, I gotta sell the Jeep. Oh, okay, well, here it is. It's good. It still runs. I've kept it good. And he goes, yeah, you want to buy it? And I said, nah, cannot. And he goes, $1. And so I still am driving the Jeep. Friends that out of nowhere crop up. And if you have an organization of volunteers and friends that you can turn to, together work on issues and joyful projects and stuff, it's a huge difference, as you know. Balance, that's where I find it. By November of 2015, doctors decided that chemo isn't working, and just take him home. And I did. And I was grateful that we didn't have to sit there at Straub anymore all those afternoon hours, and we could spend the time. He could be in a bed in the living room. We could watch the same shows. We could laugh. He was always smiling. And hospice would bring by a dog so that he could play with it. And they helped with the palliative care. And I didn't know anything about pills, but I got to poke his finger every day to draw blood, and that was fun. I mean, everything we did was fun until I learned that he couldn't get into the John by himself. And so I stood him up next to the bed, went into the kitchen and pulled a bunch of tinfoil, laid it on the floor, and that was how we would go to the bathroom. And that didn't last long. But hospice care was there. They helped. We tried to make something out of nothing, laugh, enjoy. We'd look back on it and laugh. We decided long before this situation that we would donate our bodies to the John A. Burns School of Medicine Lone Body Project. I'll tell you, knowing that that was taken care of was a huge relief for both of us. No funeral needed, cremation done after the students got a chance to learn from Kirk, and will learn from me when it's time. A huge relief knowing that we had that taken care of. I have my green card in my wallet. I seriously recommend looking into that. It's huge. And Kirk decided rather than have a funeral, he would do what Stevie did, and that was to gather together all of his friends. And the folks at KGMB helped get the word out, and this was in December of 2015, and we went to Hasser, downtown. 350 people came to hug Kirk goodbye. And he didn't have to wave from under a flag somewhere. He was there to share and laugh. Oh my God, he sounded like Julia Child. But at the same time, everybody had a chance to see him. For a long time, they hadn't. And it opened the door to visits. People, shit, I know him. I've known him all my life. Just because he's skinny now, just because he's shame that he looks so skinny, he's still smiling. He still has his humor, and he still has a brain. And I can go visit. And so people kept coming over and bringing food and all that kind of stuff. Never would have happened if he hadn't pulled everybody together to show I'm okay and I love you and thank you for loving me. It was huge. His daughters were there on that day, his friends from work, girl that we housed for 4 months from Germany while she was studying through Rotary. She surprised us, flew in the day before the party, and it was remarkable. We didn't ignore family milestones in the last few months, which is something I think was very helpful. When we had our double wedding anniversary, we all went out to dinner. No smoothies that day. Lots of martinis, and steak, and all the fun. Stuff we haven't really done a lot, hadn't done. We took advantage of special days and would be together with friends and family. Don't be afraid to retreat to a familiar place. Family memories are very, very uplifting at a time when things are so down, and meant a lot. And there were Father's Day surprises from his daughters and my brother and his family, and when people were coming over by plane to visit Uncle Kirk. And I would cook and arrange takeouts and do all those kind of things, but it was fun. The last few days, he always had a smile on his face. And my brother was there on July 18th, and he offered to stay longer. And I said, no, we're okay, we're good. And he said, I said, do you need a ride to the airport? And he said, no, I have a cab downstairs. You need to be here. So I stayed, and Kevin walked out the door, and Kirk was sitting on the bed, smiling, and I leaned in, and we gave each other the juiciest, lovingest kiss. It was so sweet. And as he leaned back after, he went away. He went to heaven. Just that moment. I had created a list, and this is really important. I had created a list of people that would need to know when Kirk passed. And my sister came and made all those calls for me. I didn't have to tell people. She did. And I was in another room with Honey, looking at him, loving him. And not too long, in wheels this beautiful bed wrapped in red silk, and it was from John A. Burns. And they put Kirk on him, and away he went. And they gave us time to say goodbye. They're thoughtful, they're wonderful, they care, just like the people at hospice, wonderful, care, the dog lady, everybody. And how have these experiences that I've been sharing affected me? Well, I'm still off balance. I'm shaking right now. My knees shake. I continue to have too much evening wine. I am going to go back to counseling because I don't want to become an alcoholic, but that is my exit. I just as soon get shit-faced every night and not think, you know? Don't feel bad about that. Find help. Find help. I now have my roommate. She and I used to walk up and down Kalakaua together in 1969, taking pictures in restaurants. And she went through some trouble in California. And I said, you know, I've got an extra room. Come on over. So she is now my roommate. And we kind of watch after each other. She's upstairs, sleeping. Don't isolate yourself. And if you need help, seek it out. Don't be ashamed. Continue to build your network of love and care. Reconnect with friends and family. That's where I pull back sometimes. I don't want to bother people with my issues and my questions and my needs. Don't pull back. Lean in. They're there for a reason. Continue to share your time and energy and volunteer because doing something for somebody else is always a shot in the arm, much better than a poke in the finger. Stay engaged. I have photos and memorabilia all over my apartment of Kirk. Now, some people would think, why keep thinking about him? But oh boy, I love it. I love waking up. Hi, honey. I talked to his ashes. We had a bird named Belle, and she would, in the morning when Kirk would go to work, under the cage, she'd go, "Bye-bye, Kirk," just like Marilyn Monroe. And so I have her feathers stuck in the top of the bag. I don't know, just memories are all around me, and I'm smiling, just like Kirk did. I'm smiling. And realize that as a caregiver, you had kept your loved one breathing in ways the doctor could not imagine. It's personal. Thank you.